You don't want to cross Agatha Christie. This movie, See How They Run, I had seen that it was coming out, to the big screen. I was getting notifications about like trying to get passes to early screeners or whatever. And I didn't go check it out until it came to theaters, and maybe it was Thursday preview. I can't remember. I've been a little behind on watching movies on the big screen, but I went to go see this a few days ago, last Thursday, and it was kind of a spur of the moment sort of decision, but it looked like something that would be interesting. It was about murder investigation, detective-y stuff. I didn't really put together that there was a very strong connection to Agatha Christie stuff until I actually started watching the movie. And obviously the title should have given it away, but still, I thought maybe it was just something kind of like just a detective novel that harkened back to Agatha Christie type things. Well, that is what it is, but there is a direct connection with Agatha Christie in this movie. And basically the premise is the play The Mousetrap, which is based on one of her books, has been on stage for, I don't know, I think they're celebrating like the 100th production or the 100th time that I don't know what you call it, when the 100th time that they perform the play. I don't watch plays. I'm not into that sort of thing. But anyway, the production had been going on for a while. So there was this party and someone important gets murdered at this party. And so the investigation commences. Now, I didn't realize, it's when it starts off, you can kind of tell it's lighthearted. It's going to be a little comedic, but it wasn't until after the murder had happened and there's a scene where this young, I don't know, that girl, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce her name, but starts with an S, and it's like, I don't know, some Irish name or something, and I will butcher it. So she's the chick who played in Mary Queen of Scots, and she played in Lady Bird. Anyway, she's like, I'm not sure what the ranks are. Maybe she's a constable, or she's like the lower. She's in training to become an inspector or detective or something like that. And so she's like, it's this scene right here. She's standing here in the lobby, and the main detective, played by Sam Rockwell, comes in, and there's this funny little thing that happens when she's trying to, he's trying to get in and she won't let him. And then finally when she lets him in, so it was like, okay, this looks like this is going to be kind of a little bit slapsticky and funny. And it was, but there was also some touching moments, and it doesn't really take itself too seriously, but at the same time, it's not so lighthearted that you can't take it seriously. If that makes any sense. It's funny, it's lighthearted. It does. There are murders that happen, so some violence, but it's nothing that's overly bloody or overly grotesque or offensive. There's no real. It's basically a family-friendly murder mystery. That sounds like such a contradiction, right? But it doesn't take itself seriously, but at the same, I wouldn't say that it doesn't take itself seriously. It's like it's self-aware, right? It's like kind of a spoof sort of on that type of formula for murder mysteries. But I felt like it was really well done. And even though it's lighthearted in nature in a lot of ways, it was still something that was very interesting, and I still felt a bit invested in the characters, especially the two main characters. The dynamic between these two, I thought, was really well done. You find out a little bit more about their lives as the story goes on. She's kind of one of the things that I recognized early on about her is that she's kind of bumbly, and she's over eager. She's trying so hard to just be the best policeman ever, like that. And so sometimes she makes missteps and she jumps to crazy conclusions, and it can be quite comedic. And I got to thinking, it's refreshing to see that sort of character being played by a female, because a lot of times when a male is playing that type of character, they're ultimately made to look kind of stupid and foolish and dumb and silly, and maybe in some ways that seems to be a reflection of her character. But as the story goes on, you find out there's much more to her than that. And the reason she keeps making these silly mistakes, and it's like she's just going a little bit overboard. She's trying too hard, and consequently, she ends up kind of, making a fool of herself sometimes. But it's not done in such a way that is disrespectful to her as a character. It's just funny. And then as you learn more about her, you get to know her a little more, you understand her more, and I'm trying not to give too much away, but you feel a bit sorry for her, and you're rooting for her, and also him. And I like how they, well, I want to say it was predictable. It wasn't quite predictable, because I certainly was misled by red herring stuff, okay? But that was because I wasn't trying overly hard to figure it out. Maybe someone watching this will easily and quickly figure out who the baddie is, who's the person that's committing the murders. But I was effectively fooled by at least one of the red herrings that they were definitely going heavy-handed at. And I kind of knew at the time that it was happening that, okay, well, this is really strong red herring going on here, so I know this isn't going to be the person that they're trying to, make you think that it is. But still, I felt like it was done in such a way that it didn't leave me disappointed or anything at the outcome. I liked that it fooled me, but at the same time, I don't even know where I was going with that one. Whatever, had a brain fart. Anyway, the timeline for this movie takes place in 1953 London, so it's very much a period piece. My friend D Movie Man should like that. I'm curious to find out what his thoughts are on this. I thought about him when it started playing, because I'm like, oh yeah, it's a period piece. He's gonna love it. But the comedy in here, in some ways, it was a little bit slapsticky, but not overly so. But the comedy was more like situational. There would be an embarrassing moment, or let's say a very tense, uncomfortable moment, and you would hear heavy swallows by the actors on the screen. That was kind of funny. And also the dialogue, the interactions between the inspector and the commissioner and the constable, and the social interactions they would have with each other. How they, when you're saying people's titles to one another, like commissioner, inspector, it's kind of, and you say it to them when you're introducing yourselves or beginning the conversation, and you say it at the end, and they were just like going overboard with it. And it was funny. It would be like, oh, commissioner, inspector, constable, inspector, constable, commissioner. It was fun. I don't know. It struck me as funny, and I giggled every time it happened. I don't know. Maybe it was just the mood I was in at the time, but I thought that was pretty comedic. And also other things like there's a dead body, and there's these crazy conversations happening over the dead body, and it's just like, oh my gosh, this movie. And the cast, I really liked the cast in here. It was quite extensive. I mean, I recognized pretty much everyone that I saw. I can't necessarily tell you their names, like obviously Sam Rockwell, Adrian Brody, that girl, I know you want to try to say, that dude right there, he was in The King's Man, and I recognize most of the people. I even recognized the chick who was playing Agatha Christie. She was the girl who played in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets and some of the other Harry Potter movies, the Moaning Myrtle. She has a very unusual voice, as soon as she starts to talk, I mean, I knew who she was when I saw her, as soon as I saw her face, but then when I was like, is that her? Is that her? And then she started to talk and I was like, yeah, that's her. And she was pretty, she was pretty funny the way she was represented in here. But something else that I also appreciated was the way the cinematography was. There were several moments where it was like a split screen and they would show it was unusual. Maybe not unusual, but it's not something you see very often. But like, let's say they would have a person, and then they would also have the screen or the camera focused on the other person, and they would just put them side by side. So you're seeing both of them talk to each other, and you're seeing both of their immediate facial reactions and responses to what the other person is saying, as opposed to when you're typically seeing the camera from over the shoulder of the other person. You guys will know what I mean when you see it. But also, they showed this at several times, and then there's a scene where they have split screen, but in that particular moment, there's an object that's going across the screen, and instead of showing it from different angles like they had been showing the split screens with the different people, it carried through seamlessly through the split panels. I just thought that was interesting, and I liked how that was done. It was different. It added this interesting little twist to the way the shots were framed, and I noticed that right away and thought that was really cool, and it carried through the entire movie. But in general, if you can't tell by now, I really enjoyed this. I think this is probably something that I would probably. I think this is something I would probably add to my collection. If not physical, definitely digital. It's something that I could see myself watching multiple times. It's not necessarily top movie of the year for me. I think we all know what that one's going to be by the time 2022 comes to a close. But it was certainly enjoyable. It was quite efficiently paced. It was not very long, maybe like an hour and 30 something-ish. Around, give or take, but it didn't feel rushed, and it didn't feel like it was long and plotting. It felt like you got enough time with the characters, especially the two main characters. You got enough time with them to get to know them pretty well and to really develop a connection with them as leading characters. And also, you felt like you had enough exposure to the side players in the story. A lot of this was told in flashback because obviously one of the characters has been murdered, so you're going in flashback and seeing certain things that happened that led up to the murder and stuff like that. But I felt like you had enough exposure to all these different characters that they didn't necessarily feel robbed or cheated of screen time. I mean, obviously you can't give all of them extensive amounts of time, but I felt like it was sufficient for the roles that they were playing. And this is just a fun whodunit, pays homage to, the Agatha Christie tales from way back when. And I felt like it was very well done, and I'm curious to check out who the director is and see if there's something else of theirs that I've seen and have appreciated, or if this is kind of new for, like, if this is a new director for me. But I really enjoyed the work that they did and enjoyed this entire cast, enjoyed the story. Just, I really, honestly, I liked everything about it. I can't think of any cons, honestly. I didn't write down one con in my notes. Now, I didn't take huge amount of notes, but I had no cons to mention. Maybe if I, rewatch it, I would, or whenever I rewatch it, maybe I will find something, but there just wasn't. It's a solid little movie, and I suggest if you like murder mysteries, if you like Agatha Christie, if you like ensemble cast, quirky characters, some comedy going on, I think that you'll probably really enjoy this. At least give it a shot and see what you think. And if you've already seen it, let me know. This isn't going to do gangbusters on the big screen or anything, because it's kind of like that type of film that you could easily enjoy on the small screen at home, though I'm very glad I saw it on the big screen. But yeah, it's just, I think it's worth your time. And if you check it out. Let me know what you think. Well, that's my thoughts on See How They Run. And don't have anything else. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up and see you guys later. Bye.